This is the podcast with your host, Clinton Washington, and your co-host, D'Angelo Gillespie. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of 2 Cent, the podcast. I am your host, Clinton Washington, also known as your favorite Uncle Clint. I'm here as usual with the dreaded one, my guy, D'Angelo Gillespie. What's up, my man?
I'm all right, man.
Hey, you know what? We got some sponsors right now.
Sponsors?
Yeah, we got sponsors.
Oh, shit, we moving up, goddamn.
Yeah, we moving up in the world. Hey, and our sponsorship don't cost that much. Hey, inbox us. We'll tell you all about it. But today's show is sponsored by Steakadelphia. They serve authentic and crazy good Philly cheesesteaks. They also have burgers and old-fashioned handmade milkshakes. And they also sell beer to go.
To go?
Yeah, beer to go, man. Hey,
that's legal.
Hey, just because it's beer to go, don't drink and drive. All right, we're going to get into today's podcast, man.
Let's do it.
You know, today's podcast, we want to talk about a current event. So,
a current event?
Current event. Let's talk about George Floyd.
George Floyd.
I know everybody has talked about George Floyd, but I don't want to talk about the man himself.
Okay, explain.
What I want to talk about is what has been the outcome of the protests, some looting, some disturbances.
So everything.
Some murders.
Murders.
You know, there was the one police officer that was shot and killed. I think he was retired and doing some security work. I don't know the whole entire story, but there has been murders, and the last time I read, it was about 17 murders.
Since this started?
Yeah, since the protest started. And, but you know what? I don't want to attack the protest. What I want to know is, how are people feeling? Now, as a black person, I know how I feel. I know what drives me. I have been out and I have protested. No looting. I didn't tear up anything. Just peacefully protesting. But I have a lot of friends out there, and I want to know what they feel like and what they feel about what's going on. But this difference that's happening right now. We had 50 states pretty much all protesting at the same time.
Yep.
18 countries.
Yep. That's the first time for the countries. The 50 states have all protested at the same time before, but it's unprecedented because of the countries now. So this is the first time.
So, you know, it's almost easy to figure out how do we feel as black men. But you know what? I have friends from all different lifestyles, all different ethnic groups. But today I wanted to talk to my friends who, at some point or another during these protests, have found themselves to be either confused or to wonder, have they done enough? And from my perspective, what is enough? What do I tell them? So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce a couple of my friends. My first friend I'm bringing on today, Mr. Micah Fletcher. Micah Fletcher, Portland native, been around here for a while. And he doesn't like when I say that, but he's my hero. Michael Fletcher, about a year ago.
I knew you were going to slip that in there. I absolutely knew you were going to slip that in there.
I have to slip that in there because I have to give people the content of some of the folks that I hang around. About a year ago, Mr. Fletcher put his life on the line for the sake of just being a decent person, stepping in when wrong was being done. Many people have heard of the case involving a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Christian. He stabbed 3 men, killing 2. Mr. Fletcher was the only survivor.
That is correct, yes.
And, Michael, what's going on, man? And listen, now I'm bringing you on here on the show. I know we're not going to go into this whole Jeremy Christian thing.
We can at some point. That's not a problem.
Right. We'll get there. We'll get there.
But like, yeah. So how am I right now? So I am frustrated in a lot of ways. What I see as a very not new problem, one that at least all of the people I've been around my whole life have known about for years, many of whom have actually been have been at the receiving end of this problem. That problem being the way that we have police in this country, the way they operate, etc.
So before you go on, let me introduce our other guests. We have Bart Brandrup. He's been a friend of mine. We call him the Black Irishman, even though he's probably whiter than grits with no butter in him.
Great.
But that's my guy. That's my buddy. I call him my little brother.
Y'all don't know shit about grits.
I was about to say that grits are yellow, aren't they?
Yeah, but
Like a golden color.
Y'all don't know shit about grits.
Yeah,
anyway.
This is the grits
What's
without
up,
the
Bart?
butter in it. All right. What up, Bart? What's going on, man?
Hey, not much. Thanks for having me, guys.
I appreciate you coming on. So, we wanted to get point of views, and, we couldn't get the whole world in this room to find out, as white men, just being honest. And we're going to go with Bart first. How are you feeling with these protests and the death of George Floyd?
Well, initially when I saw what happened with George Floyd, I was immediately angry, sad, and then as everything transpired with the protests, I was pretty excited about seeing all the unity and the protests happening and across the world. It's something that I never thought that I would see in my lifetime. Obviously, I missed out on the 1968, but I think you were right there, right, Clinton?
No, I wasn't there. I was almost there, but,
Right.
I missed it.
Just missed it.
Just missed it.
But I and then
You guys are funny.
and then oh shit.
Really? Okay. We're doing that.
We got
We're that level of fancy.
Yeah.
All right.
I think, and then confused, like confused as to have I done enough? Where do I stand? Like, am I raising my kids to be, good people, be allies to like stop this generational stuff that's been happening? So for me, I've been very conflicted, and not about the protests and the riots, but like where have I been, and I haven't spoke up before.
Right. Yeah. All right, Mr. Fletcher, let's get your take. I know your background, and I know you have stood up to racist behavior, even to the point of putting your life on the line. How are you standing with things now? How has this made you feel mentally, knowing what you've been through, and that this seems to just be somewhat of a repeat of a cycle of what we've been going through for a long time?
So personally, on a personal level, this is incredibly stressful for me. Ignoring just the way that it's going to blatantly trigger some semblance of PTSD syndrome.
Right.
Just from the standpoint of, like, you have large crowds of people, you don't know who's in them. You have the police, they're in full military gear. There are explosions popping off left and right. You don't know if it's a flashbang or a gunshot. You don't know if it's a firework or an explosive. You have no idea.
Right.
So that is stressful. But what really has me fucked up is the fact that, so like, for instance, what a lot of people don't understand is that the reason I have the beliefs I have is entirely functional. The reason I stand up in such situations is functional. It's not, I didn't read a book or listen to a speech and go, that's the thing to do. I should do that thing. I was raised almost exclusively by people that didn't look like me. Like, almost. My parents did their best, but neither of them expected a special needs child and they had problems of their own. It was a whole thing. So really it was up to like a group of about 4 or 5 people, right? You had Miss Hodges from SEI. You had Shameka Owens, and she will probably end up coming into this conversation in a second because she is a perfect example of how I learned about this stuff. You have Anayo Janice, you have Elo Gil Williams, Bo Mandela, a number of different people, right? None of them look like me. So the reason this matters to me isn't a matter, it's like, this isn't a matter of like, oh, this is so wrong and terrible. It's I'm looking at my loved ones and I'm like, when am I going to a funeral?
Right.
Like over this.
Okay.
Like when is it going to be one of mine? And so it's not it's not an options thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, somebody doesn't run into your house, point a gun at your mom, and then you think to yourself, you're like, should I get in the way? Should I help? Should I call somebody? It's like, nah, like that's family. You got to protect your family. You know, and it sucks because there's not a lot of tangible things to do in the moment.
What do you mean by that? When you say there's not.
Well, because the problem is systemic. It's not
It is.
like this isn't something that you're going to fix by going out. It's going to be part of it. It's going to be part of it.
But-
In the current fight right now, we are going to have people out in the streets doing whatever they have to, and by any means necessary, causing the current establishment to make the right choices.
But when you say it's systemic, I know that you understand that it's bigger than the street. You understand that.
Well,
So,
right. It's
yeah.
the very function of the society we grow up in is built in a way that centers European descending cultures.
So if it's systemic, and we know where we are as far as being on the ground, I guess I don't want to cut you off.
No. What's your question? What's your question?
Well,
What's the question?
we both know it's systemic.
Sure.
I think all four of us understand that part. We also, however, I don't think I got to ask you this, but you do understand the benefits and what comes from the protest and riots.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask both of y'all. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut Clinton's intro off. I know he's going through his question, but I personally want to know how y'all feel about that. And
What
then
do you mean, the protest?
all of it. Let's talk about all of it. I want to talk about how do you feel about the protest? How do you feel about are we doing the right things to get the right type of attention? And then what's the attention that we're really looking for if attention is what we're asking for? But like I said, I think Clinton has the way he wants to open up, so I don't want to cut that off, but I'm listening
No. You know, one of the things that we agreed upon when we started this, these conversations have to be organic.
Right.
It's not scripted.
Right.
I have questions, so that's...
I mean, well,
let it be what it's gonna be.
Well, I'm listening to y'all, and like, I know where I'm at with it. Like, I listened to Bart, and he said he was explaining how it made him feel once he first. The question Clinton asked was, how did it make you feel? And I'm gonna be honest, when I saw it, and this is dangerous, I didn't feel shit, and I didn't feel shit because I've seen it before.
Well, right, and there's my problem.
Yeah,
so there's where my feelings are. If you're wondering,
yeah.
what my feelings are is I don't care.
Yeah, well,
protest. Go ahead.
We're gonna get to that part. But when I say I don't feel shit, I mean I looked at it as more so as you got to remember, man. We've been talking about police brutality since before Rodney King. Rodney King was just the first time we saw it, So
yeah.
and with that, we implemented body cams. But since then, we've seen this shit a million times. And so if what you're saying is, if the question that Clinton is asking, how did it make you feel? I ain't feel shit. I've seen this before. I've seen this movie. I've seen this show.
So, but that's my point. That's my point, D'Angelo. Like, this isn't news to me. And so this is actually perfect. So that woman I just mentioned to you, Shemeika Owens, you ever heard of her?
No.
You ever heard of her?
No.
You ever heard of her?
No.
Let me tell you a little story, a little beautiful little story about a woman that her name that I was introduced to her by is Beauty. Capital B-E, capital U-T-E-E. It's an acronym. It means be yourself to everyone everywhere. So understand right off the bat, like, that's the kind of person we're working with. She's a youth counselor.
Okay.
All she's ever done. Okay. I've seen her frown in the 10 years I've known her one time. When another student said some dumb shit to me in the classroom, and she wasn't even mean to the kid. She just said, no, you don't talk to your classmates like that. You don't. And for a moment, she had a neutral face. That's it. The most positive woman I've ever met. She comes in to my school, my middle school in seventh grade. She came into the auditorium. We were having a meeting for this after-school program called Caldera. She comes in with a cast. We just assume, she fell. We're like, so Beauty, what happened?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because you got a cast on. What's going on? Well, the story goes like this. One day, Beauty's on the max. She's going home from her job, teaching kids, because that's all she fucking does, right? Okay. She's on the max. She gets off at the stop. She sees a cop with his knee in this young black boy's back, arresting him. She asks a very simple question. Very simple. Says it in exactly this way, exactly this tone. Excuse me, officer. I was just wondering, why are you arresting this young man? That's it. Cop goes, ma'am, I'm going to need you to back off. I'm trying to do my job here right now. She goes, well, okay, so I understand that, sir. But especially because, technically speaking, like my taxes are your pay, I just feel like I would like to know what's going on. And he goes, ma'am, I really am. I'm going to need you to back off. And she's like, I understand that, but I just need to know. Like, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm not trying to stop anything. I just want to know, and then I'll be on my way. And he's like, you really going to keep doing this? And she's like, yes, I am. I'm sorry. I want to know. So he grabs her wrist, pulls it behind her back, thrusts her wrist up into the center of her upper back as hard as he can, and bends her over a trash can, right? Which we don't even need to get into the imagery of a man bending a woman over a trash can and how degrading that is alone, right? Breaks her wrist, and she, being who she is, never violent, but always very courageous about her self-worth, right? She sits up in pain. She goes, listen, you can arrest me, that's fine, but we're not doing this. You're not bending me over a trash can. I'm not trash. I don't go here. You're not going to be doing this with me here. And he arrests her. Keeps her for 12 hours, releases her, and this happens around 5 p.m. She doesn't get released until early in the morning. Okay. So for me, why I get especially frustrated, especially with the dialogue that happens whenever these fucking riots occur, is I get pissed off at the shock, the amazement. How could this have happened? How is it possible in 2020 that when not less than 9-10 years ago, I watched somebody who is the pinnacle of who we should all be in this world. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not a hyperbolic person when it comes to facts. And truly, I've never met a better woman in my life. Yeah. For that to happen to her, over that, this shit isn't shocking. I don't feel anything. Well, I already knew what was up.
Well, and that's what I mean. And that's why the conversation is important today, because, like, it's almost like you expect this part. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about y'all, but I expect this part. I expect this. Like, but see, the difference between this time is, I think it's undeniable. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let Clinton run with it. The difference between this body cam, the difference between this time, there is no confrontation. He's handcuffed already. There's 4 of you already. 3 of you guys are actually on his body. He's already subdued. So at this point, you could stop it. At this point, you could still save his life. I don't believe America has ever seen it this way, where it's essentially already over, and we're going to go ahead and keep pushing the envelope. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's and I just feel like that's the big difference between this time. This time, there's no other narrative to run with. There's nothing else you can say. And honestly, I almost believe that the protests and the riots almost give them something. But it is still undeniable. It is that 8:46, the 8 minutes and 46, that shit is undeniable. And I think America must address that. You got to find something to tell us. You got to fucking tell America something.
I don't think this is what I believe. If you believe in a higher being, I believe that, and this is my conspiracy theory.
Oh no.
I believe a higher being stepped in and found something to make us sit still and have to start paying attention. And
COVID-19. Oh no.
COVID-19 was the gift and the curse. And rest in peace to those who have suffered from COVID-19. I'm not being dismissive. But this is one time since cell phones and social media that we were sitting still. At least looking at our televisions, looking at our phones. We weren't in traffic on our way home from work. We wasn't getting ready for bed. We were sitting still. And finally, we're paying attention. And for anyone looking at the murder of George Floyd, for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, you saw a human being. You didn't see him breaking the law. You didn't know his background. You saw, like D'Angelo said, the narrative was this man is handcuffed.
Yeah, you can't spin this. It's tough to spin this.
You can't turn this into something else. We saw the video of Tamir Rice get gunned down and shot in 1.7 seconds by a police officer. That didn't shock us.
Well, it's because you can say a bunch of different shit about it. Like
right.
any time, see when you're not cuffed, when you don't have multiple cops on you, you can spin a narrative. You can say I felt this way.
Well, that's my whole point. Tamir Rice died 1.7 seconds. Less than 2 seconds, he was shot and killed by a police officer. We saw this in so many different instances, but this was the first time, I believe, that no one could deny that this guy was murdered. Now, so let's go back to you, Bart. Now, you've already shared to us how you feel. What is your mindset today? We know where you were a couple months ago. Where you are today, thinking about the riots, thinking about the protests, thinking about where do we go from here?
You can speak plainly, man. I mean, I don't want nobody to feel like we just having a conversation, shit, man. Don't feel like you gotta be
so
correct.
Historically, myself, which Clinton and I are kind of an odd pairing, right? Like, I'm more conservative. I'm a Blazer fan. He's and a Saints fan. He's a Rams fan. So, and a Lakers fan, and clearly not conservative. So, the fact that him and I get along, and I guess where I'm at right now is I think what's happening with the riots and the protesting, I think that it's necessary. And I say that, what?
I said, wow.
Do you think it's necessary?
I do.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because I feel like forever these things have been happening. And if you look at Clinton's Facebook page and he posts something, right, there's always some dude that comes on there and says, yes, but this. Yes, but this. As opposed to what happened. And I feel like forever since I've been alive, or at least since, let's say, the social media age or whatever you want to call it with phones and stuff, that we see this stuff, we become desensitized to it, and people are speaking out about it, and it just gets shut down because of, well, yeah, but what about this? What about this? When people say black people are being killed, by cops at this rate, they say, well, white people are being killed at a higher rate. Well, per capita, that's a ridiculous argument. I feel like there's a lot of bumper sticker mentality, and what I mean by that is people from the left and the right, they get these slogans caught in their head or whatever that they heard on Lars Larson or whatever, NPR or whatever, and they don't think it through. And so, for me, I feel like this is now how some of these riots and stuff been hijacked by other people. Yeah, but I feel like it's necessary for the message to get across because nothing else was happening. Nothing else has been working to this point.
Exactly.
So, from a white guy with 5 kids that lives in the suburbs that's historically conservative, I feel like this is what has to happen for us to start moving forward.
I agree. So MLK said something like this. He said, rioting is the language of the unheard. Yeah. Right? So for years, black people have peacefully protests, going all the way back to the March on Selma. That didn't work. Then you had Colin Kaepernick take a knee. That didn't work. His agenda got hijacked. And it became more about the flag.
Yeah, you can just you just spin a new narrative.
Right, you keep spinning that narrative. Yeah. But you know what? This is these riots, and I don't want to say necessary, because I want to be careful. I want to stay employed tomorrow.
I'll say necessary.
But
You know,
wait, hold on. So these riots come from the 5 stages of grief, and one of the 5 stages of grief is anger.
okay.
If anybody spins it to say, "Oh, this is an economic issue," it's not.
I don't think it's economic. Okay.
Explain that. Hold up. What do you mean?
So-
you say it's an economic issue. Like,
So
what
some
is that?
people try to say that black people are protesting this not because of the fact of being murdered by police,
Okay.
that they're protesting because of the economic status or economic situation of black people collectively.
Then fucking indict the cops then. Indict them and goddamn send them to prison and then see
Well-
if we get out the street.
But you know what? This is the thing. I'm a professional. I've always been a professional.
Me too.
All right, other than my early years of life, I've always been a professional. I've always worked, been employed. All right. So a lot of people would look at that as like, well, you've always had a job. You've always done this. You've always done that. So you can't say you've been oppressed. You can't say that the cops have treated you this way. Let me tell you, collectively, as a black person, the first time I had a cop put a gun to my face, I was 6. I was 6 years old, and I was standing in my parents' front yard. And this was in L.A., the cops would ride around with baseball cards of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And one of my favorite cops, I never knew his name, but he would always give me one extra card than the rest of the kids in the neighborhood. And I used to have a stick. And with this stick, me and the kids, we would play cops and robbers. And we would point the sticks at each other and, like we were shooting each other, whatever. And I would point my stick at this cop in his car, and no problem. He would take his finger and bang, bang back at me. No problem. That was our thing. That's how we played with each other. Every time he rolled through the neighborhood, grabbed one of the little twigs off the ground, pointed at him. He faked like I shot him, whatever. He continues to drive on. For Christmas, I got a cowboy set with the hat, the vest, and the gun holsters, and it came with a little fake shotgun.
Oh, that ain't funny no more.
Standing in my front yard, because Mom didn't let me go out the front yard. And I point my toy shotgun at this cop, and he stops in the middle of the street, runs up in my parents' yard, and he puts a gun in my face and says to me, "How would you like if I pointed a gun at you?" I'm that same kid. Same kid that's always been playful with him. But this toy gun just took him to another level. But that was the first time. You know what I mean? I'd never developed a hatred for the police, even though I grew up in the NWA era. But when I looked at George Floyd, it reminded me of that time period, and it made me angry. And as I flip through the channels or I look through news articles and I see burning buildings, I felt nothing. I felt nothing for Target and Apple, and I felt nothing for those corporations.
It's funny you say that because the first night I saw Portland on fire, I said, and I don't know if you remember, I said on the Zoom, I said I believe rioting is counterproductive. And I'm going to tell you why I said it and where I stand now with it. I said I believe that rioting is not the protesting. I believe that the protesting is to gain awareness. The rioting is counterproductive. And the reason why I said it's counterproductive is because I felt like by watching that video of George Floyd, I felt like that is so undeniable that it must be addressed. And if we just simply do nothing and allow that to seep into America's consciousness, then we have something. If we burn down buildings and shit, now you get fucking Fox News on this stupid shit the next day, and the story is not, are we going to indict cops? Are we going to defund the police? Are we going to start with reform? The story tomorrow is, we burned down Apple and they stole iPads and these are looters and these are criminals. See, that's a narrative, and I can feel our whole goddamn time spot with this bullshit.
So here's my problem.
What's up?
Sorry, I can't keep with it. All right. No, it's not a narrative. It's fact. That's exactly what happened. Yes.
But-
good.
No.
No.
Oh,
Let me explain why.
You-
Let me explain why. Good, and let me explain why.
Good that
Here-
we're spinning the narrative?
No, there's no spinning a narrative. That's what happened.
But-
And there's nothing wrong with that. And let me explain why, real quick.
If
Okay?
if you're going to take, I'm gonna let you speak, Micah. If you are not going to keep your eye on the ball of indicting these cops, then anything that we're looking at, that we talking about, that we are addressing, besides this bullshit, is
that's just a
fucking
gardener.
smoke.
That's just a gardener cutting off the top of a weed and calling it weeding.
But Micah, this is what they pushing out to fucking America.
They push it out anyway.
They are
whether
gonna
we
push it
riot
out
or we don't.
Yeah, I totally agree
Well,
with you.
like,
But
this is where I get confused.
No, I agree with you. But Micah, if we don't, hold on, I can tell you where I am with it. Okay, so I'm going to speed up the story. I said that, and somebody actually sat me down and had a conversation with me, and they said, you do not get to tell people how to grieve, how to respond, how to react, just because you can internalize this shit because you've seen it for so many years and you're where you are with it. Because I'm going to say this shit, and I'm going to say it on here. Like I told her, fuck protesting. Somebody fucking put their knee on my neck and they kill me, Micah. And y'all can find y'all way to fucking find this man's house and stop him from getting food and the rest of this stupid shit. Fuck protesting. Shoot into the house. Because that's where I'm at with it. I don't want to play games. If you kill my brother, Micah, I'm not gonna do no news conference. I don't give a fuck about how you feel about it, how you feel about it, how Clint feel about it. You kill my brother, I don't want to talk about it with you. I don't want to talk about the. If we know who he is, then let's just go see about that.
Okay, so wait.
Okay.
So,
And I understand it's
No,
an very
hold
unpopular.
on. I really do. I need to get this out.
So let's
It's
back up.
it's an unpopular opinion.
Hold on. Let's
My bad. I ain't mean to cut you off, Mike.
wait a minute. Let's do this. Let's make sure that our listeners don't get the wrong impression that we want you to go out there
Absolutely
looking
listen.
for
I
cops
don't
who
want you
have
to-
done something wrong, whether you think they have done something wrong.
Man, you are loosely.
We believe in
You're
the
absolutely right.
justice system.
I sure do. However, I do believe.
We believe in
I
the
believe in
justice
the justice
system.
system.
We gonna leave it there. We gonna leave it there.
Y'all can go ahead and believe in the justice system as
Go
much
ahead,
as
Mike.
you want. You can go ahead and do that.
All right.
Go ahead, Michael.
Here's my dilemma. I've been through a court case at this point.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it inside and out. It's a joke. It's a trick. And they play it every day. And they play it with all. And this is the thing. This is what's funny. Especially when I talk to... Okay, so for instance, I think a lot of the reason why we have division right now when we're talking about these things is because of this really weird cultural shift between people that live in red areas and blue areas that actually have much more in common than either of them seem to recognize or acknowledge. But due to this weird fucking fixation we have on the gang mentality that is our politics, nobody ever fucking can have a conversation for long enough to realize that. Now, that was an aside. I apologize. Here's my dilemma. In a court case, there are no facts. Let me repeat that for you in case you as an audience member did not just catch what the fuck I told you. It does not matter if something happened. That is irrelevant. What matters is that the 12 people sitting on the stand give a guilty or a non-guilty. That's it. And what qualifies them? Are they professionals? Are they in some way educated? None of that matters. Which is okay. Don't get me wrong. I understand the sentiment behind that. But the only thing that qualifies them to be on the stand is basically them having as little knowledge of the case as possible and having no real bias. But due to the way that we define bias, all that really means is they don't have strong feelings. It's really what that translates into. They are neither
I never even
against
thought
the
about it like that.
plaintiff
Yeah.
or for the plaintiff. They are neither against the defendant or for the defendant. They're neither against the... If it was if it was a firefighter, they neither hate firefighters nor love firefighters. They just know that they exist, right? Okay. So here's the dilemma with that. That has nothing to do with anything at all. That's not justice. What's just about that? Wait a minute. You mean to tell me we're playing a game? Because that's what it is. We're playing a game. We're bringing up all these professionals and witnesses and God only knows who. There's no verification of who they really are, apart from what you're told on the stand and in the newspaper. And we're just expected to believe everything that comes out of their mouth. And then, even then, the person that makes the decision is 12 strangers. And you mean to tell me that's how we run shit? We just have a vaudeville show every day, all day, and that decides whether or not somebody is going to live in a cage forever, where they will be surrounded by violence and will inevitably become a more fucked up person. Like, period. Right. Say what you will about the prison, whether you're for or against it. Here's just a fact that we won't argue about, because if you argue, you're wrong. If you go to prison, the likelihood of you going back is double when you come out. That's a fact.
Right.
So, bearing that in mind, when people ask me on my opinion about this rioting that's happening, or my opinion about the police, or all of this, the dilemma is people don't understand that my opinion isn't personal. If you're a cop and you're listening right now, understand something. I don't hate you. I don't know you. I've never met you. And as long as you take off your fucking uniform and put your gun away, I'd be more than willing to share a beer with you. Here's the dilemma. The second you put on that uniform and you put that gun on your hip, we have a separation now. You and me. There is a separation where you have the ability to, if you wanted to, for whatever reason, murder me, and due to the fact that you have a union that is involved in the justice system in general, you know most of the attorneys, you know most of the defenders, you know most of the prosecutors, you probably have even met the DA, you're probably not they're probably not your favorite person, but you probably at least know of them. By doing that, you are basically a gang. And I know that because I grew up around gangs, okay? And that's how gangs operate. They get together, everybody gets a different job in a different part of the neighborhood to make sure that they kind of know everybody, and they basically find a way to maintain power. And so because of that, it's not personal, but I can't trust you. Because you are going to have your people's back before you have mine, even if mine is the right back to have. And we've seen this in action. There are plenty of police officers who have done the right thing, and there are plenty. Like, this is, again, I'm not here to fucking be super biased about this. There's plenty of cops that have told on cops. They all got fired. All of them.
Yeah.
They lost their jobs, and they didn't get rehired because of the Blue Code, a very well-known thing that happens in most police departments. Note that I didn't say like a rural sheriff's department, because what people don't understand, there's a massive dynamic difference between those two things, though both can be corrupt. But there is a Blue Code that exists in most city police departments, where basically, if somebody fucks up, you keep your mouth shut, because it's better for everybody if you do it that way.
So you are for the riots?
Not only am I for the riots, I don't. What justice system? Justice where? For whom? What do you mean justice?
So let me ask you this.
That's a whole, that's a whole deeper conversation.
Wait, hold on. So let me ask you this. You've been through the justice system.
Right.
You've had to sit there. You've had to testify, and we go in here, Micah.
It's fine.
You had to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Although you were a victim of
because I did
crime.
some dumb shit, and they
Right.
were able to dig it up, and they were able to make that useful.
Okay, tell
or
us
they
about
tried.
It. Well,
So back, what is this? 2016. Back in 2016, I had enough. I was pissed. I was done. I saw
had enough of what?
Right. I'm gonna get into that. So I saw what I saw from the current president was a lot of arrogance, a lack of nuance, and a lack of professionalism.
Okay.
And typically, I don't have a problem with that. Like typically, if you want to be a dipshit, that's your business. It's not mine. It's fine.
Okay.
But when you run what is supposedly the freest and most powerful country in the world, I feel like maybe don't. Like, maybe let's not. And what really finally kicked it off was because I have a very dear friend who means quite a lot to me, who is technically she's an illegal immigrant. Okay, she's from Mexico, and there was a raid, and she almost got picked up, and she was lucky enough to get away. Now, when I say she's an illegal immigrant, let me be clear here. She was born in Mexico, and she moved here when she was 2.
Okay.
So she didn't move here, mind you. But she grew up here. She was raised here. She really mainly speaks English. Like, she speaks Spanish, to my knowledge, according to my friends that can natively speak that in a fluent tongue. She speaks what would be the equivalent of essentially Pig Latin, but she speaks a little bit, kind of.
Right.
And she also, generally speaking, is culturally American. She has a lot of our different little synchronicities and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So she's not necessarily going to be somebody that super fits in if she ends up over there, right? So I got super mad about that, and I ended up going to a protest in Vancouver, Washington.
Okay.
Now, I know, because I live in Portland, and because at the time those protests were happening every other day, practically, that most of the people there dressed in all black like ninjas and ran around pretending to be super tough. And occasionally there would be like a scuffle, and the media would make it seem like it was a massive riot when really it was like two people being really bad at fighting together. So I was like, okay, I like me being me. The way that my special education teachers taught me how to be in the world is mimic other people, and you'll fit in. So I dressed like one of those people. I went there and I protested like the rest of them. Now, I, on the other hand, unlike a lot of people, I'm a little more passionate. And I brought smoke bombs there because I wasn't having any of it. Like, there was this religious lady, and she was talking about, if you've had an abortion, you can kill yourself. And my mom had to have an abortion and not die. So I got real mad. Start chucking fucking smoke bombs into the crowd, being a dumbass kid. And I ended up getting arrested for that. Okay? I was tried, essentially acquitted, because the police officer couldn't even write down what kind of mask I was wearing correctly. He said I was wearing a gorilla's mask. I was not. I don't know in what world a skull looks like a gorilla, but okay, sure. Yeah, basically, like, the cop just did the worst job he could at being a cop, and I was released of all charges.
Okay.
So, bearing that in mind,
but it's on your record.
Sure,
no,
it's not. It's not technically. That's the funniest thing about it. This is why I said facts don't matter, because I wasn't charged. Let me be clear here, Clinton. I wasn't charged with a crime, but did that stop them from bringing it up in the courtroom?
I bring it
I
up
was a defendant.
If you wasn't charged with the shit, why even bring it up?
Because they can. Because they can dig it up. They can dig up the report. Because just because you're not charged with a crime doesn't mean that there isn't a case with your name on it. Okay.
Okay.
So understand, every time you're arrested, whether you're charged or not, is relevant.
So they just wanted to set up precedent that you're not a good guy.
Right. They
You're no
were trying to press
hero.
a narrative
Hero.
that
Okay.
I was actively trying to fuck up Jeremy Christian that day, right? Because I'm some sort of like Antifa terrorist protester type or whatever the fuck.
Okay, are you Antifa?
Like, well, no. But
Okay.
yes, it's a more complicated question than that. Am I against fascism as a concept? Sure, but most Americans are. Like, what do you mean? No.
You have no affiliation, but
You have no affiliation with the group.
But you believe in what they do.
Well, I didn't until these fucking idiots turned it into a weird mass media thing, and all of a sudden, like, there was a lot of different people hitting me up to, like, come to events and perform and shit, and all of a sudden, I met a lot of different activists.
Yeah.
Right.
It's part of the reason why I have the opinion I do, because I've seen both sides. I've got a lot of conservative family. I've lived and hung out with plenty of conservative people. I've met a lot of radical leftists. I think both have some pretty interesting ideas, in my opinion. Anyway, so, oh God, what the fuck? Where were we?
All right, back on the
What was the question?
how they tried to bring up your criminal background.
So they brought that up in order to make this narrative that I had been looking to start a fight on this train.
Okay.
Now let's clear a couple things up real quick. This guy was, to my knowledge, 216 pounds. I am $148 on my best days. At the time, I believe I weighed in at 139.
Okay.
I was only really able to lift him in the air over the dividing line because he was so drunk he could barely speak straight, other than whatever his weird tirade was. And at the end of the day, he still won the fight anyways and killed 2 people. So it was really awkward thing to try to throw in there. But they tried that,
Right.
and it failed.
Yeah. And so we can bring it home. Mike is and he's trying to explain how the criminal justice system, why you don't believe in it.
Right. So the reason I don't believe in it is because it was unfair on all accounts. Like, first of all, clearly Jeremy Christian is a mentally ill drunk man. Like, that's just, if I have to explain that to you, you're not paying attention.
Right.
You're not. Like, the man was shot in the head as a child by a cop. Tell me how you're supposed to not be fucked up after that. Like, go ahead. Try to explain that to me. Anybody. I fucking dare you. When you take a bullet to the dome and live, that's going to change you. And then he goes to jail for that. And don't get me wrong, he burglarized a liquor store. So we're not talking about, like, somebody who's a saint. That's not my point. But that did happen. He goes to jail. He ends up in jail for a long time. Because, armed robbery is a bit of a big fucking deal. So he goes to jail, comes out, ends up homeless. Ends up starting to say some really weird shit. Not racist shit at first, just weird shit. Talking about Vikings and fucking being Nordic and believing that fucking, what is it? Circumcision is like an evil thing that is spawned from like some higher agenda of some sort, right? And he starts selling comic books on the corner. See, because what I didn't understand at the time, and that's taken me the 3 years that it's taken from the initial incident happening to the actual trial happening, is I'd seen this guy before.
Right.
And I knew a lot of people that have had to deal with him before. He's been in this town for years.
Including the cops.
Including the cops, right? And so why this whole trial fucked with me is because he was clearly mentally ill, despite the racial aspect of what he did, which is very clearly rooted in white supremacist shit that he was exposed to in some way and made him into what he is. Nonetheless, he was drunk and is probably pretty fucking crazy. So, yeah, that's got to have something to do with it. But that was just thrown out the window. And then they also allowed that little side bit to come out, where it was like, oh, well, he, was at a protest once and got arrested but not charged. So, I mean, he's a terrorist and this man was defending himself. When you have a 360-degree video evidence, and there's also a video the FBI hasn't released, and it wasn't aired in the courtroom, I don't know why, that has the actual cameras on the train.
Yeah.
Okay? And you can see it from the top down, from the side, from this side, so from north to south, east to west, whatever. Whatever angle you want, you can watch this guy stab 3 people. And that wasn't the end of the case. That's my problem. Yeah. Is if the question, which the court was stating was the question, is Jeremy Christian guilty of murder? And the answer is yes. And we don't need it. This whole jury can go home. Go home, guys. We thought we had to talk about it. We don't. It's right here.
Right.
But that's not what it's about.
So because of what's happened with you, have you lost all hope in our judicial system?
I mean, yeah, if
I'm asking just a straight question.
Yeah, if that's the way we run shit, that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I'm sorry. And I don't mean to be rude to anybody that's working there either. It takes a lot of work to become a lawyer or whatever the fuck. But I hate to say this, in my opinion, your degree's being wasted. By quite a lot. You're obviously a very smart person that's very qualified to do a lot of important things, and I don't know why the fuck the system is set up for all of that to be put to waste. Because it is. It's put to waste.
Okay, so let's go to Bart real quick. Criminal justice system.
For or against? No,
I'm
just fucking around.
I'm sorry, Bart.
No, I mean, that's a question that's been open.
Well, I mean...
I know it's tough to simply say for or against, right?
Right, yeah.
Right, it's way more complicated.
Yeah, I was just fucking around when I said for and against.
Fuck.
I've been thinking about that a lot, and
gonna mark you again.
At some point, it went from protect and serve to harass and coerce, right? You look at the Beaverton Police Department, for instance, and they're notorious for giving tickets for everything, right?
Yeah.
I talked to a Beaverton cop at a barbecue, and I said, hey, it's ridiculous, man. I got pulled over for a speeding I didn't stop, apparently, right? He called it a California roll.
Right.
And I told the judge, I stopped for 3 seconds, right? Came to a complete stop. It was a 4-way stop. Nobody was there. I moved forward. And he said, I understand that, but there's no real definition of what a stop is. I said, well, then how can you give me a ticket if there's no definition?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
He said, well, I'll reduce it 20%. I'm like, but that
doesn't
increases
help
my
me.
insurance.
Right.
Come on. How can you guys enforce a law if there isn't even a law
to enforce?
Right. But at some point,
That shit don't matter.
No, it does. Well, right. And so I guess my point is it went from protect and serve, your local neighborhood cop that everybody knew, like the Andy Griffith Show or whatever, right? Maybe not that simple, but to going to a 5K cancer benefit run in Hillsborough with cops completely armed from head to toe with AR-15s and full-on body armor.
Right.
And I asked the cop, I said, what the fuck are you guys expecting here? this is a fun run. What's going on? And he just looked at me like I was an idiot, right? And to me, like when I was 18 years old or 19, went to Puerto Vallarta for a senior trip, and the federales are driving around on trucks, and they're all, they are 15s and shit. I was like, whoa, man, I'm glad we don't have that here.
Right.
And now it's here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, when that kind of happened, where it switched from the police being militarized as opposed to how it used to be. And I don't know if everything's been excelled since that, but I definitely think that it's broken. Am I for it? No.
I mean,
I'm not for it. And
it's it's tough, man, because I don't know, man. I listen to both of you guys, and it's discouraging to a point. If you guys, and shit, you guys are two white guys, and I only bring that up to say, well, shit, man, I already know if two white guys are telling me this shit is broken, and hell, I'm just going from me. Hell, I can tell you how the black people feel.
Well, so wait. Just pause right there. So let me be the devil's advocate with that. I'm one of those black conservatives who hold on.
You're not for defunding the police, but I wouldn't call you a conservative.
No. I'm just saying. Okay, if I was a black conservative,
okay, I'll go down this road.
I have conservative views, but anyway, if I was a black conservative, and I've come across a lot over the past couple months, and my argument is, I never experienced racism. All you have to do is comply. George Floyd had a criminal background. He was a habitual criminal. He had been to jail, and he was a drug addict. What about black on black crime?
I'll play all these games, because I've been talking about this shit for weeks. Guess what? Due process.
Okay, let's stop right there.
I don't give a fuck what
Hold on, let's stop right there. I'm going to go to Bart first. What about black on black crime, Bart?
That's a good question for a white guy. What about black on black crime, Bart?
Well,
you
No.
Go for it.
Let's give him some context to the question. All right, so Bart, here's what we're getting, and I'll give you a little context to this. So, a lot of people tell me, well, if Black Lives Matter so much, then why are black people not as interested in solving the problem of black on black crime as much as they are for defunding the police, being out here in the streets rioting? Why aren't you guys approaching that situation in your own neighborhoods? So Clinton is asking you now.
No. This is. I like that. Let me.
Go ahead. Expound upon that.
Let me expound upon that. I like your word. Why aren't black people who are raising the red flag, marching in the street, burning down businesses because of white on black crime?
And you're gonna ask a white guy the answer to that? I like that part. Let's see. I'm interested.
We're pissed about white on black crime.
Oh, Michael, we coming to you too.
We're pissed about white on black crime.
It's gonna be an awkward answer.
But what about black on black crime? Why aren't we as pissed off about black on black crime? Bart, I'm putting you on the spot.
There's no right answer, Bart.
I've never taken exception to it or used that in an argument.
Shit, they say that shit every day to me.
Right. Well, yeah, no, but, and I get that, and I hear that all the time, and it's a tired narrative, right? It's that bumper sticker mentality, and I try not to fall victim to that. I try to think through, but I think, black on black crime, it's such a, like, South Side of Chicago, right?
Right.
I think honestly, it comes down to, like, where's the money for education? Where's the money for the infrastructure? Where's the money to help these kids get out of that, right?
Right.
And systematically, we're not giving that to the communities that need it, and that's the black on black crime. And I think that.
But Bart, they got time to protest and shit. Why they don't have time to see what's up with these neighborhoods? They got Black Lives Matter in the street doing all this other shit. and got money to organize, why can't they put that into their neighborhoods? I guess. I mean,
'Cause it's bigger than that, right? Like, isn't this where it starts? I guess what we have is we have a systematic inability to be able to help out the poor communities. So what with the education system? I mean, they've tried time and time again when they, I can't remember if it was Baltimore that was the first one that started giving people vouchers,
Yeah.
so that they could go to different schools, and that didn't work. And the problem is that you got places like South Chicago, Flint, Michigan. People don't give a shit about, right? Like white people, it doesn't affect my life, so why the fuck should I care about it?
Right.
And nobody is at the forefront to be able to go lobby for it. Where's the money to go lobby, right? Like,
Right.
where are the people, like, up until probably Black Lives Matter, there wasn't a movement where they were making money to be able to. Now Black Lives Matter is, they're making things happen. People have to see it. So now maybe Black Lives Matter becomes a third party, fourth. Maybe they become a lobbyist. Maybe they're getting and generating enough money to get some steam behind it. But that's what needs to happen, is there needs to be somebody speaking for these communities to get the money that they need, because we don't have these same problems in Lake Oswego, right?
so you don't believe one has anything to do with the other, as far as why aren't black people paying attention to? You believe it's a systemic problem,
Well,
as far as
who's saying that black people aren't paying attention to it? Like,
Oh,
they're being affected
goddamn
by
it! Everybody is
So many people.
I'll tell you, Bart. When
okay.
black people start to say things like, "Well, Black Lives Matter," that is one of the top fucking 3 answers. Well, if Black Lives Matter so much, why aren't you guys this vigilant about stopping crime in your own community? If Black Lives Matter and you want the cops to, when black people say we would like the cops to stop goddamn killing us and give us our fucking day in court, the answer is, why? You guys kill each other. This shit is a false equivalency. That's first.
right.
But honestly, not trying to stop your answer, but I'm just going to give you some context to the question. But because that is what we are met with when people say, "Stop killing us." Well, y'all kill each other, so what's the difference?
So you know
Well,
what?
I mean, first and foremost, I don't think one has to do with the other, right? Like,
Absolutely not, sir.
so just because cops are killing black people at an alarming rate, which is ridiculous, has nothing to do with the fact that black people in inner cities are killing black people. And that goes back to what I was saying about, look at all these guys on Clinton's Facebook post saying, yeah, but what did he do? Yeah, but Obama did this. Yeah, and it drives me nuts because there's no debate. There's no intellectual debate or any facts, or it's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of
Facebook. It's that Facebook shit.
And,
It's the
and there's
worst.
a lot of fucking keyboard warriors out there that are all fucking tough guys, but
I don't
there's
even
no-
mind that shit. I just need you to have facts behind it. If you got
Right.
facts, we can talk all day. If you telling me about your fucking feelings, man, you can keep it.
But
100%.
this is the thing. So and I mentioned this before in another podcast. If you come on my Facebook page, I'm going to post some shit, and it's probably going to piss you off, but it's going to get you to engage. It's going to get you to talk about some shit. And some people are not intelligent, but I still give them a space. I give them a space to show how stupid they are. And if I don't respond to something that you post, it's because I want people to marinate on the fact that you are very stupid and you have no facts to back up anything that you just said. And there are some professional people. There are some police officers on my page. A lot of them don't comment, but I'll get a lot of private messages.
Sure.
And I respect their positions. I'm not trying to cause anybody to lose their job, but I'm telling you, I have a very good friend of mine that's a police officer. A few years ago, he went and got a Viking tattoo. Now, I grew up in Compton, California. Compton, California is right next to Linwood, California.
Ooh.
Linwood, California has the Linwood Sheriffs.
Yup.
The Linwood Sheriffs has a white supremacist group in the Sheriff's Department called the Linwood Vikings. If you go as far as the Southern Police in Alabama and Mississippi, they have Viking shield tattoos. All right? My friend told me, no, I'm of Nordic descent. It broke my heart. I know what the Linwood Vikings are capable of. I know that there has been 2 investigations that has failed. I know that they hired a minority police chief to try to break up the Linwood Police Sheriff's Department, white supremacist group, and couldn't do it. That's how powerful they are. And I grew up with this.
So
I'm a grown-ass man right now, and they still exist.
So in that power, though, where that power comes from is just the banality of the evil that is the bureaucracy that we run things with. Let me give you an example. Okay, I want to run an investigation. Am I allowed to just go run the investigation because I am, the person in charge of the sheriff's department? So presumably you hired me because you trust me and think I'm a professional. Well, no. Fill out a bunch of paperwork first, right? We're not talking about civilians. We are talking about an interdepartment investigation, okay? It is made to be in a way where if you want to get something done in that department, you have to jump through 12 hoops. That would be okay if all of the people you were investigating weren't able to then see it a mile away and get rid of all evidence of anything at all. And it's not on purpose the way we think of it, where on purpose means I had an intent, like I intend to set fire to this building, so I go and I buy some matches and I set fire it. But it is intentional from the standpoint of we can identify the problem clearly in the way we are running something, and then we choose not to fuck with it because it is convenient to leave it in place. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
All right, Bart. We've been on here for about an hour. 30 seconds. Give us your feedback, your last words before we close this thing out.
Give me some context, D'Angelo.
All right. So, we've been talking about George Floyd, but it's bigger than that, man. Pretty much what we are really talking about is we are at a crucial point in this world right now. We have the world's ear. So it's going to be important that we make sure what we are saying is something of substance. So,
well, going off of that.
Well, no. That's like, I want you to bear in mind all of that, because that's just the moment. But I think when he says 30 minutes,
30 seconds.
30 seconds, how do we fix it, Bart?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Don't stop the momentum.
Explain. Explain.
No, wait. Don't stop the momentum.
Yeah, but
10 seconds. How we keep the momentum going?
Understand the actual problem.
oh,
All right, Bart.
it's a whole
How we
different
keep the
podcast.
momentum going?
Once the dust settles, the riots subside, the protesting subsides, that has to be taken. It has to be gone to governments, right? Like action has to be put in place. It can't just be that. It can't just be that we had some riots. It was something that's gonna be in time life, in 50 years that people look at like, oh, hey, remember this? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
It's got to be that this is the foundation of a movement that moves forward, right?
This has to be the beginning.
It has to be the beginning. It can't just be the beginning and end.
Yeah.
It's got to keep going from this point.
Yeah.
Because I have 5 kids, and I've raised my kids to love everybody, right?
Right.
And what?
I said right. I
Yeah.
was agreeing with you. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know your kids.
Yeah.
I only got hit in the balls once.
Well, I didn't say they weren't dicks.
Yeah.
I'm just saying and I don't want my kids to grow up in a world that this stuff continues to happen.
Yeah.
And that I have to answer questions as to why is George Floyd being killed? Why are people being killed by cops? right? And my biggest, for me, I haven't, like I've taught my kids how I feel, and to love everybody, and to stick up for, you know, people that are being oppressed, because they've been gifted with abilities to be able to stick up for themselves, which other kids have not.
Right.
But I want that world for everybody, right? Like I want a 10-year-old black kid walking down the street to not have to worry about having a gun stuck in his face by the neighborhood cop.
That'd be nice.
I want all of that stuff, and I know it's a big. I just want things to be the same for everybody, but it's this movement. This movement has got to continue, whether, you know, what Black Lives Matter decides to do at this point after this, because it's going to stop here. It's got to stop anytime soon, right?
Right.
So whether that's becoming a political party,
But somebody else has to grab the mantle. I think Black Lives Matter started this shit, but I feel like unless it gains traction and somebody else pick this shit up, it can never. You can't repair something systemic with something grassroots. You get what I'm saying?
You know what? I disagree with that in this respect. Martin Luther King was grassroots. He was considered a communist.
That was before someone picked it up.
Yeah, no, but Martin Luther King, that's where he started.
Yeah, but
and he kept going, and we haven't seen protests like this. We've seen the anger from Rodney King and the verdict. We've seen angry protests, but we hadn't seen this type of protest since the Martin Luther King era.
since '68.
So we've been talking about facts. Let me interject some facts here real quick in explanation to what I just previously stated. Understand the real problem. This is the FBI crime stats for 2018. When it comes down to crimes cleared by arrest or exception by all police departments across the nation: murder and negligent manslaughter, 62.3% clearance rate. Rape, 33.4% clearance rate. Robbery, 30.4% clearance rate. Aggravated assault, 52.5%. Burglary, 13.9%. Larceny, theft, 18.9%. Motor vehicle theft, 13.8%. Now, I'm pretty sure we've all been through public school systems. Therefore, we all know that F is anything below 75. Anything. And what happens when a child gets all Fs is you hold them back a grade. And either they fail out or they do better. Their choice, but either they fail out or they do better. And if I'm going to hold my child to that standard, I'm damn sure going to hold somebody that has my life in their hands to that standard.
Well, okay, I'm a correct my man. 75 is a C.
it's a strong C.
It's a strong C. I got a lot of those.
No,
but
That's my point. 75 is
but
a C.
his
It's
point-
passing.
No, yeah, but he said 62%, I think.
I was going to say,
now-
the highest thing on
Was
this
62
is 62.3. That's
That's-
a D.
No,
That's
no.
a D.
Yeah.
That's not pass.
What the
You don't
fuck?
pass
D
with a D.
D is a 70. D starts at 70 in Georgia. Where the fuck y'all grew up?
Right
I grew up in
California,
Oregon. It
yeah.
starts at 60.
Y'all motherfucking getting D's with 60s?
Yep.
Man, listen, D start at 70 to 72. Damn it, all y'all are fail. All y'all are F.
Hey, we never said we went to the best school system. Hey, but you know what? We got to bring this thing to a close. And I appreciate you guys coming on board. And this is a very tough subject. As Bart mentioned, I like to poke the bear on my Facebook page. It's my personal page. I very seldom do I post the happy family pictures. I let my wife do that kind of stuff. But I would rather talk to people who disagree with me than to sit around and talk with people with their eyes closed. I appreciate you guys coming. We want to thank our guest, Mr. Bart Brandrup, and the infamous, my hero. I don't care.
You said he's infamous.
I call him infamous.
Are you
You know,
It's true. I am in some circles, yeah.
but you know, it's my hero, Mr. Micah Fletcher. And once again, I'm your Uncle Clint. I'm sitting here with the dreaded one, Mr. Single, out here in the streets.
I'm still.
This has been another episode of 2 Cent the Podcast. Hey, thank you guys for listening. That's my 2 cent.
been Two Cents, the podcast, hosted by Clinton Washington, with co-host D'Angelo Gillespie, brought to you by Underway Entertainment and Pound the Pavement Productions. Thanks for listening.